And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Space Base, The Mysteries of Terra Proxima, Saga Expansion number 2 for Space Base. So a couple things here we want to talk about. First of all, I actually played this before it was published, even though I looked and my name's not in the playtesters, so it's easy to misspell Vasel. But this is Saga. This is AEG's new thing. Saga is their way of adding an expansion to a game that's kind of like a campaign, but it's a mini campaign, and you can then just take everything from it and throw it into the game. That's how the first one, the Shy Pluto expansion, was that way. It was like 4 or 5 games you played, and then you could just throw all that stuff into the base game. So this is a little bit similar to that. Now you play through this as a campaign. I don't think you have to. You can just kind of just open everything up and look at it. So this is what we're going to do for this review. I got to show you what's in this box. Otherwise I'm just going to be like, it's good, maybe bad, or whatever. So I'm going to show you in just a second. If you don't want to see any spoilers, I'll try to be as spoiler-free in my final thoughts at the end. There'll be the most minor spoilers, but whatever. Stop watching the review now if you don't want anything. But I'm going to actually show you what's in here, so if you don't want to see what's in the box, skip over that. I will not spoil the campaign itself, which is just kind of with all due respect, it's a very boring storyline, whatever, some stuff happens, but I won't spoil how the campaign works. You're playing through this campaign. But I am going to show you the new mechanisms that are revealed over the course of the campaign. But I do this because I think many people like me are going to go, ooh, I might want to add these mechanisms to the base game. So here we go. You've been warned, spoilers! All right, last warning. I'm going to be showing you the stuff that's in here, including what's in the mystery box. Here we go. So it's a campaign you're going to play through, and then each card will say, do not look through this deck, even though we're doing so. Stop card, don't do this till this tells you. So there's a couple changes. So there's going to be more 1s, 2s, and 3 cards. And these cards do, this, by the way, is a great card. It's a blue card. That gives you the red, and the red gives you the blue. Okay, that's a nice addition to the game. And then there are these airplane tokens. So I'm going to talk about those in a second, the little fighters. And there's a few other things in here, victory points and such. And so there's a couple things. First of all, this deck is shuffled, given to the players. You will hold some of these cards in your hand. You're able to play them from your hand and buy them from your hand, but they cost 2 less to buy them from your hand. After that, they might go in a deck in future games, and in fact, I think you could just put them in the game to begin with. But let's talk about those little fighter jets. So now when players play the game, they're going to be rolling this patrol dice. And this patrol dice has a picture of these little spaceships on 2 sides. If you roll one, you're going to add one of these to the setup here. So you'll first put one here, then one here, then one here, then one here, etc. You'll find a first empty spot following that pattern. Here's the thing. Whenever someone buys a card now, instead of replacing it, you slide the cards over and put a card out like this. And if you buy one of these cards, you get this. So now you get to roll an extra die every round, which, by the way, I find to be very annoying. It's an extra die. It's an extra fiddly thing, and adding these and sliding the cards just adds a bit of fiddliness to the game. Now, I do like these tokens. These tokens, there's a little board here, the Shy Pluto board, and you know why it's called that? Because this is literally the same mechanism from the last game. You have a bunch of these orange dice. You're going to put these little dice here, and they're going to line up in this row. Now, in the Shy Pluto expansion, they're pink, but you can mix them together. The reason they're orange in this set is because they wanted it to be really, really hard for you to read the size of the dice. But once you can pay those fighter tokens to buy these. And so when that happens, you are going to be taking this die and rolling it with the normal dice when it's your turn. And if the one side shows up here, you get some extra things. So you can get extra income, extra points, extra money, and you might get to roll the bonus dice. Yeah, this game comes with bonus dice, and you just roll them, and that's a die roll that only you can use. Woo! So that's one of the changes of the game, although that's, again, very similar to what was added in the last expansion. But this has a few other mechanisms that are added. There are now going to be different point cards that you can add, and these will be mixed in the mix, and you can see here on this fairly unreadable text. This is, by the way, insane. This black on orange text. But now when you buy one of these cards, you get the victory points, but it also gives you a special ability. Like here. Once each turn before rolling, you can set one die instead of rolling it. That's pretty awesome. As soon as I could buy this, I will. Some just give you an immediate effect. You can search the level 1 or 2 deck for one card with arrow icons on the blue rewards and claim it. Here it is 8 points and 3 income, and everyone else gets an income. And then here, everyone gets to roll the bonus dice a couple times. And so there's lots of these cards that are in here, but the orange abilities also will show up on the regular cards in this set too. So you can see here that these are more the orange cards. And by the way, when you play with these in the final games, like after you're done with the campaign, you'll play with a few of the weird ones and then just the normal point cards. But there are now cards that have orange abilities on them, and that just means it's a special ability. So like here, double the rewards from cards in this sector. Or after the active player rolls for each turn, you also make a separate roll for just yourself. You choose which roll to use. Here, once each turn before rolling, you can buy a card for 3 less. And of course, they still have some kind of, I guess, normal cards included with the game, various combinations of, look, it's a diagonal arrow and 5 points, or roll all your shy plutonium dice 3 times. These dice here, I get to roll them all 3 times. So that's, another feature or thing in this game, and that was not in the last expansion. So the final thing here is this addition of the 13. And you might be thinking, oh, it's already hard enough to roll 12. The only way to get a 13 is to roll 12 and then have something that adds 1 to it. Well, yes, that is sort of the case, except there are other ways to get this. So this comes with a printed thing on it, which shows an income and one of those little fighter jets. All right, great. So when this happens, that will go off. However, there will be another little market of cards that you can buy to put on here that will go off. Except in this market, you are actually paying income to get these, which is, but everyone starts with income in this game, so you'll be able to buy at least one. But how do you get these cards to go off other than rolling a 13? That's with the forecast cube. So every player has 4 forecast cubes. You put one on any number you want. And once each turn, you can pay money to put one on another thing. So if I roll here, for example, I got a 2 and a 1, but let's say I get a 2 and a 5. Boom! My forecast has gone off. And now I'm going to get whatever reward is on the card. Now, you don't have to, when you're buying a forecast cube, that doesn't count as your purchase for the turn. You can do that with something else. But when you roll this, and at the beginning of each round, you only have one number. So let's say I pick 5s. That could still go off on double 5s, which is kind of tricky. But once you have all 4 of these cubes out, your chance of getting a combo is going to be much higher. Now, when a forecast does work for you and it goes off, you have to take one of these cubes and put it back. So there is a disadvantage. Now, if you roll the 13 somehow or get some way to get the 13, you don't have to put in any of them back. But this will go off and, fairly often, because you'll usually have some extra money, especially near end game, to buy these. And if there's a 1, 4, and a 5, there's a good chance that, there you go, I just rolled it, a 1 and a 5. So that's going to go off, and then I'd have to put one of these cubes back. So that is how this works, and this adds an extra spot to your board. Space Base is one of my favorite games of all time. I love it. I really do. It's simple, it's easy, and it offers a lot of cool things. I like the Shy Pluto expansion. I didn't really care about the Saga campaign part of it, and as I played through that, I was like, oh man, I just want to throw this stuff in the game and play it. And that is what I do now. This has some similarities to that, but there's some problems. First of all, not happy with a lot of the components here. I don't think those orange dice are easy to read. I don't, like a lot of the cards with special abilities, the black and orange text also not particularly easy to read. I think that's a problem. Also, sorting this game out and putting it in the box, it will fit in the big giant box. Otherwise, how do you keep it separate? That's a smaller issue, I suppose. that felt a little, Secondly, and this is where I said at the beginning, the most minor spoilers, but I thought it was weird that they literally copied the first expansion in many ways. This has a lot of the same stuff as the first expansion in it. That seemed odd to me, to just bring that same stuff in all over again. It almost makes the first expansion redundant. Why would I need that one when I can get all the same stuff here? Now, the first expansion does that stuff better, but I digress. I don't know where I stand on this one, folks. I think that I'll play it. It's interesting. There's lots of cool stuff. But this takes Space Base from being a really streamlined, fun, fast game and turns it into a John DeClaire masterpiece. This is kind of what he does with his designs. He has these really cool mechanisms, and then he says, throw in the kitchen sink. We've seen this before with Mystic Veil and other games where it's like some really cool ideas. And then everything else around it. And that's kind of this feels messy, this expansion. It feels messy because you're sliding cards and getting tokens and using those tokens to do this. And then I'm trying to get that number and I'm spending these cubes to go here. And it takes a game that's a really tight 45, 60-minute game and almost doubles the length. At least that's what it feels like. And there's all that extra stuff. And if you are in Space Base and you're like, I want to see more, then this is great. And here's the thing. Lots of this stuff I like. There's some mechanisms, again, the stuff from Shy Poodle, I already like that stuff, so I'm glad to throw that stuff in. And more cards. I'm still a little confused why more cards is looked at as a bad expansion. I would have been perfectly happy if this had just had more 1, 2, and 3 cards. Maybe with new mechanisms, like, oh, now we added new mechanisms, and the different mechanisms that they added in here, they work. But then when you add things like now the cards are shifting, and now there's these extra dice that you have to roll at certain times, and you roll that extra die every turn now, and there's cards in your hand, and then there's another section here, and you're doing things with that, and there's extra things. All that makes the game feel like it slogs down a bit. Now, if you are like a Space-Base fanatic, and you felt the game was too simple, and you want more stuff, and you're okay with that complexity creep, then you're going to really like this. Although I still think you will be slightly disappointed when at the beginning you're like, wait a minute, we've already done this before in the first expansion. So this sounds fairly negative, and I don't mean it to be that way because I'll play this. I'll try all this new stuff out. It's just that the whole time when I was going through this, because again, it's one of my favorite games, I kept thinking, is this making the game better or is it making the game more? Because that's a big difference. Making the game better is fantastic, but just adding more, this is analogous to Space Base as Cities and Nights is to Catan, which again, for some people is amazing. But for me, I was like, I just wanted to play Catan with more stuff. I'm looking for Catan Seafarers, not Catan Cities and Nights. This feels like that. It's just a little too many things going on. And then the whole fact that you got to talk about spoilers and stop and don't read this and don't do that, the saga thing hasn't yet grabbed me. I'm all for more mechanisms. I'm all for more things. I would be fine if they just gave me this rule book and said, here are 5 modules. Mix and match them to your pleasure. I'm good with that. I don't need to read a made-up story about some Mystery of Terra Proxima because it's not that fascinating anyway. So, Space Base Saga expansion. I think some of y'all watching are going to love it, but not everybody. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment, interesting, but only for the most die-hard Space Base fans.